we gave our concerns to the government, explained the situation, and I think he felt it was a little bit rich of Mr. Mitchell to say that he wasn't happy with the way it had been handled. At no notice whatsoever, he moved an amendment on the Friday when most of the MPs were back in their constituencies for a vote on the following Monday. So there was not enough time for the Crown dependencies to lobby and get over the message that the UK can't legislate for us as long as we're complying with international law, and that and explain how our registers work. So that's
just the big if question. If it had been passed, if it had been debated, if it had been passed, and it seemed that it could well have been passed, what would we be talking about this morning?
Well, if the legislation had been passed with the amendments, then that would have had no effect on the Isle of Man and the other Crown dependencies. It's unworkable, it's unenforceable, it's unconstitutional. And rather than address this global issue through rushed amendments, we would like to work with the UK and other international organisations.
But we're self-governing, aren't we? Something would have been forced upon us.
Well, no, what would have happened is we would have had until 2020 to comply with the UK's rules and regulations. Then they would have had to have taken an order in council to try and force the Isle of Man government to comply with the will of the Parliament. However, in this case, the Isle of Man is not doing anything that breaches international law, and that is a key point. If we were breaking international law, then they might have a case which happened 50 years ago, if you remember the Radio Caroline
1967 or 69.
69 by the time the hearing came forward. So in this case, we go above and beyond what the OECD and FATFA require for registers of beneficial ownership.
But the UK have a public register.
Well, they have a public register, but if you have a public register that enables you to put down Mr. D. Duck as the owner, the nationality as Jedi, and if you get caught putting misleading information down, there's absolutely no recourse whatsoever, no fines.
That is the situation.
That is the situation, whereas on the Isle of Man...
Well, why don't we have a register like that?
Well, we have a register, which we think is... when we're not playing games here, we've come up with a register that is well populated. We have fines, so if you put misleading information on ours, we will either fine you, we'll strike you off, or we can send you to prison. We share that information with the United Kingdom and other jurisdictions in the world if there is a need, and we do that information with the UK government within 24 hours or 1 hour if it's a terrorist concern.
Now, one of the problems is the offshore dependencies have been told they must do the same thing by the end of next year. They, of course, are saying, well, it's unfair because the Crown dependencies haven't. There's enormous pressure on the Crown dependencies to fall into line.
Well, there is, but the overseas territories have a totally different constitutional relationship with the UK government than we do. The Isle of Man and the other Crown dependencies have never been colonies of the...
They're still financial centres like us, though, aren't they?
No, we're not a financial centre. We're a business centre, John. Our finance sector...
It's just semantics, isn't it?
Well, no, we have a diversified economy of 24 sectors. Some of our other colleagues are up 60-70% of financial services. We're less than 40%, so we're not a financial centre. So it's not semantics. However, we have a different constitutional agreement relationship with the UK. The UK government is not our government. We are our own government. It is the Queen who is Lord of Man. That is the key element. And as long as we comply with international laws and regulations, then the UK cannot legislate for us.
Can we turn this around? I mean, you did a lot of lobbying yesterday, spoke to quite a few MPs, I understand. You've got now probably a month to do some work.
Yeah, I expect this to come back by the end of the month. We have... the one thing where we can agree with Mitchell and Hodge is that we fully want to ensure that... we want to work with a global solution for what is a global policy, a global problem on tax evasion and possible money laundering. So we want to come up with a solution, but we want to come up with a solution that is a global fix. Because if you just say, right, a small number of countries are going to have a public register and the rest of the world doesn't, then all you're going to do is displace the problem.
But being pragmatic, this is going to be forced upon us, isn't it?
Well, no, it's not going to be forced upon us because it can't be if we are abiding by international law. However, I don't want to get us into that situation. I want to be able to work with the UK government and the spirit of Hodge and Mitchell to enable that the Isle of Man complies. And if in the future the global standard is a public register, then of course the Isle of Man will comply with that. But we're not complying with something that the rest of the world is ignoring.